For American college students, summer traditionally is a fun time, a let-your-hair-down time when quizzes and books and campus politics are cast aside. A time when young people seize their last chances to recapture that special summer madness that touches only barefoot children and carefree college students. In the summer of 1964, one group of students did something different. They left the well-worn paths to Nags Head and Myrtle Beach to answer a call for volunteers in a campaign against poverty. Fresh and eager and anxious to serve, these students from 40 college campuses all over North Carolina reported for duty knowing only that they faced a summer of hard work somewhere in the state, helping people to help themselves. Of the thousands of North Carolinians of all ages who would join the campaign in the years ahead, these were the first 100. If ever a state were ripe for imaginative solutions to poverty problems, North Carolina was in the summer of 1964. 405,000 of the state's families were living on substandard incomes, living in conditions that pinch children's stomachs, stifle ambition, and drag a family's life pattern down to the dull level of simple day-to-day survival. Facing up to these problems, Governor Terry Sanford formed a bold plan for seeking solutions to these problems. In a statement that summed up North Carolina's new awakening to the problems of poverty, Governor Sanford said, "It is not enough to have here the most powerful nation in the world and then admit that we're powerless to find ways to give our young people training and job opportunities. In North Carolina, we want to go into a few communities and say to the leaders of schools, government, welfare, health, and charity, look, let's see if together, in a few neighborhoods near here, we can't break the cycle of poverty and give these children a better chance." In late 1963, the governor and other North Carolina leaders concerned with the poverty around them formed an organization called the North Carolina Fund. Supported by grants from the Ford Foundation of New York and the Z. Smith Reynolds and Mary Reynolds Babcock Foundations of Winston-Salem, the fund selected 7 communities for a beginning. One of the fund's first experiments called for recruiting and training of college students for a summer work program. 700 applied. 100 were selected as North Carolina volunteers. The volunteers first reported for duty at the campus of Duke University. For 3 days, 12 hours a day, they shared an orientation diet of lectures and discussions in a learning cycle that exposed them to the processes of community organization against poverty. Guest lecturers from state agencies, universities, and from the North Carolina Fund's own staff explained how public health, welfare, education, recreation, and other resources can coordinate with local government in community action programs to offer better opportunities to North Carolina's left-out families. They learned about the causes and symptoms of poverty and had their sights set by leaders such as the Fund's Director of Volunteers, Jack P. Mansfield.
Now, lack of cultural opportunity covers a wide field. This can be an absence of good library services in a remote, rural mountain area, or the lack of recreation facilities and recreation leadership in an urban community. We know the symptoms of poverty. The question is, what can be done to overcome them? This summer, you have been invited by the leaders of 6 North Carolina communities to come in and work with the local agencies at whatever tasks they assign you, to find out and to demonstrate what college students can do to strike at the causes of poverty. You may work with the welfare department as a casework assistant, or you may help with...
The volunteers learned that they were participants in a demonstration program financed jointly by the North Carolina Fund and the Cooperative Research Branch of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. Early in the orientation period, the students were divided into teams of 10. In team discussions, they began to know and understand their new partners in service for the long summer ahead. In crowded buses and in automobiles pulling trailers full of luggage, they headed for their assignments. Volunteers were assigned to 6 of the North Carolina Fund's projects. Many were going to places they'd never before visited. All 100 of them were headed for a type of job they had never before tackled. Durham, Craven, and Mecklenburg counties each had 1 team with 2 in Forsyth. 2 teams worked in Laurinburg on a 3-county project and 2 on a 4-county project in the mountains. In every case, the volunteers came at the request of local citizens already active in community development programs. On arrival, they moved into college dormitories, private school quarters available for the summer, and in one case, volunteers lived in a summer home donated by a local citizen. Many teams were welcomed by local people with a cookout or a swimming party. Then the work began, attacking the causes of poverty, especially by working with the children. The words you will hear are the volunteers' own expression of their reactions to the people and the problems of poverty.
What impressed me most was that these children were so eager for friendship and for things to do. They just wanted more things done. And they would come over on the days that we didn't have arts and crafts, when we had other things to do, and we'd have to turn them away and say, "I'm sorry, it's not today." And they'd come and sit and say, "Well, do you have any sewing you want me to do today?" And it really made me sad because there was nothing for them to do. We couldn't do everything. When the children were painting and making things, they'd feel free to talk to us. And I think that was more important, or just as important as making the puppets, to know that they had a place to come twice a week where somebody cared about what they were doing and what they were saying. And maybe if we show the children that wonderful things can happen with an old newspaper and a Coke bottle. Maybe if they don't have $1 million, there's a lot they can do with what they do have. Poverty is boredom. And if we can show the children that they can be rich even though they don't have a lot of money, we will have accomplished something.
In my work in Newbern with the unfortunate children through the Recreation Department, I've been able to see how people with potential can be developed, and hopefully my memory will hold the particular children in mind, thinking that maybe perhaps the work that we have done here will have given them some kind of boost so that their future will be a little brighter.
Disadvantaged children suffer a poverty of experience as well as a poverty of food and clothing. Volunteers took their youngsters to play at swimming pools and to movies, visits to the zoo, and on walks through nearby parks and gardens.
Children lack love and understanding, someone to confide in. Oh, I just think that is the most rewarding part just about of recreation, is they have someone to talk to. There's a definite need of the kind of work that I did there this summer. They bought me candy, candy and bubble gum. You tell them you didn't want it, but they wanted to give it to you. I mean, that was their expression of what they thought of you.
I think I'll remember the children more than anything else, because the children represent the problem. When you see these children within situations that they have no control over, you realize that they have no choice, and you can see what a wonderful difference it makes in them just to have some interest shown.
Most volunteers found their assignments flexible. They were encouraged to experiment and innovate, starting new programs if necessary. Out of his own experience as a college athlete, one volunteer started a health and recreation club for young teenagers. At a recreation facility donated by a manufacturing firm, he started a program that soon attracted dozens of youngsters, eager for wholesome activities to fill their idle summer days. All over the state, the North Carolina Volunteers gave the children leadership and guidance, factors too often missing in the homes of the poor.
I plan to be a Lutheran minister, and I've never lacked for anything as far as I know. I think I've been pretty lucky in this respect, and I want to try to help people who haven't been as fortunate as I have to try and help themselves.
A volunteer fashioned a special numbers board for teaching remedial math to children who were underachieving in 7th and 8th grades. The classroom often was the porch of a home just off a dusty street. Many of the female volunteers were education majors, ideal workers in a program for tutoring tough high school mathematics to slow achievers.
He really learned. He surprised me. And he's still doing fine. And he really enjoyed it so well until the day of school closed. He came home, and of course I could see some little expression on his face. And after a while, he just broke right down. I thought maybe some of the children had done something to him. Of course, he kept on sniffling and sniffling. I said, I got right soft. I said, what's the matter, baby? He said, Mama, I hate to see school closing. I said, I just love my teachers. Now, that is the truth.